What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. We have made it to the end of the month of June. Tomorrow we kick off July, and July should eventually bring us some more substantial things to talk about, some more interesting things to talk about. Right now, we're still just kind of bobbing around here, waiting for stuff to happen, knowing that most likely it won't. And we do have one thing that I want to go over before we get to July here, because a few days ago, an ESPN writer named, I think his name is Mike Clay, published his annual positional rankings in the NFL. And last year, he published them in a series of articles. This year, however, I couldn't find the article, and all the data just got dumped into this PDF from ESPN. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this, and we're just going to go through the rankings. And we don't have to do one video for each positional group, because all the data is just here. So let's go ahead and take a look. And what this is, we did this last year, but just to reiterate, what this is he takes each positional group for each team and ranks them against every other team in the league. So he'll take the quarterback room of each team and ranks it from 1 to 32. Then he does the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, on and on and on. So it's a pretty good way to try to judge which teams you think will have success and which teams you think won't have success. So I want to take a look at these rankings. I want to kind of see if I think they got it right, or if they got it wrong, or if they got it really wrong, and just kind of talk through it a little bit here. And again, last year, when Mike Clay did this, he released each article one at a time, each positional group one at a time, separated by days. So I would make one video about each position. This one, I think we're going to just go through it all in one shot, or maybe two shots. So let's just go ahead and get underway here. Quarterback is first, and right away I see a big problem. So you guys already probably know where I'm going here, but he has the Seattle Seahawks quarterback room, and to be clear, it's the quarterback room, not Geno Smith, but it's ranked 18th. Now, I'm guessing the backup quarterback mattered very little in these rankings. And I'm guessing the third string quarterback basically doesn't matter at all. I'm assuming that the starting quarterback influenced like 95% of the ranking, and then maybe in a couple cases he broke a tie with the backup based on his read on the backup. I'm just guessing that that's the case, and that's the way it should be, because on the whole, you can expect the starting quarterback to play most of the time. However, even if the backup quarterback was a big influencer here, Sam Howell's not some terrible backup quarterback. He started all of last season and played okay. Not good, but he played okay. There's some potential there. There's some upside there. So I don't think Sam Howell's inclusion as our backup made us lose like 5 or 6 spots in the rankings. So I can only assume that this is a ranking based off of Geno Smith. And you guys already know how I'm going to talk about this. I think this is a joke. I think this is pretty absurd to suggest. If Geno Smith was, what they're saying is, Geno Smith is a below average quarterback, a starting quarterback in the NFL, saying that there are more starting quarterbacks in the league that are better than him than worse than him. That's basically what's being intimated here. If that's the case, if that were true, then there's no way that the Seahawks would have been mediocre offensively last year, and there's no way they would have had a winning record last year. That doesn't make any sense. If Geno Smith was a slightly below average starting quarterback in the league, and he had the situation that he had last year, we would have had an offense that was down with the worst offenses in the league. The Jets, the Giants, the Steelers, the Patriots. Those teams had bad situations for their quarterbacks as well, but they also had a mediocre, or sometimes even significantly worse than mediocre quarterback, and their offenses were atrocious. So I don't understand this viewpoint. I know it's a viewpoint that a lot of people share, but to me, if you're going to say that Geno Smith is a below average starting quarterback in this league, you're not watching the right stuff. You're not looking at the right stuff. But quarterback ranking is hard, and I understand once you get past, like, I don't know, the Justin Herbert-ish range, it gets really hard. It's really hard to compare guys like Purdy, Hurts, Love, Cousins, Goff, Tua, Lawrence, Murray, Smith, and maybe you throw Baker Mayfield in there as well. I don't know. It's 1 year. Gino's had twice as many good years as that, but at the same time, I just do not think that what we've seen the last 2 years. To me, I look at this ranking and I think to myself, this is the ranking of somebody who is holding Geno Smith's first 2 years in the league against him, which makes no sense because that has nothing to do with what we're dealing with right now. Geno Smith now has nothing in common with Geno Smith from 2013 and 2014. So I think this is way off. I think Geno Smith is pretty clearly a top 10 quarterback, but if he's not that far away from it. Certainly not this far away from it. Okay, so that's the quarterback ranking. Let's take a look at the running back ranks now, and the Seahawks show up much sooner here. They show up 4th. K9, Charbonnet, McIntosh, and Holani. They're actually putting Holani there as the 4th string, which I agree with. I think that's probably going to end up happening. The 3 teams ranked ahead of us would be the 49ers, the Lions, the Falcons. I definitely agree with the Falcons, although they did lose the Cordarrelle, who I know he was getting older, but that was a cool dude. Not a fun loss. Lions, sure, they were really impressive last year. Niners, I don't know. Niners is tough because I really do feel like that Shanahan run scheme makes life pretty easy for them and makes them look better than they actually are, but I certainly can't fault it too much. They still have a lot of talent in that backfield. They have Christian McCaffrey, and we know he's good. We've seen him be good on other teams. And they got one of my most interesting rookies in Guerendo as their 4th stringer. Not that a 4th stringer should affect that much. But K9 is clearly knocking on the door of being an elite running back in this league. Charbonnet, he's a good 2nd string running back. I'll put it to you like that. I don't think that he's a future star in this league, but he's very good for being a backup. McIntosh, we don't know, and Holani, of course, we don't know because he just got here. So I think that's probably pretty fair. I'm looking at some of these teams that are just beneath us. Like, you've got the Eagles, who got Barkley, and I understand that a lot of people are very excited about that, but I think Barkley's very overrated. I certainly wouldn't rather have their backfield than ours. The Jets, I think that I am a big Breece Hall fan, but he did tear his, ACL or Achilles a couple years ago, and he may never get that back. I don't think I would take their backfield over ours right now. And I'm looking at these other backfields, and I feel like we're sitting pretty good with what we have. So 4th seems pretty much about right. I'm down with it. All right. Now we go to wide receiver here. And the Seahawks again show up very early on this list. They show up 3rd. They are behind the Houston Texans and the 49ers. So, Houston Texans, I still kind of want to, I still want to see a little bit more from Tank Dell. He hasn't even had one full good season yet. And Diggs might be kind of entering a different phase of his career, so I don't really agree with the Texans being ahead of us. But I would put probably the Bengals above us. So, however you want to slice it, little differences here and there. Like, I honestly like our receiver room better than the Niners, but I think the Dolphins should probably be ahead of us. So, you can swap things in and out a little bit. It's all the same. So, I think 3rd is about right. I don't necessarily agree with these rankings overall. Like, I would probably bump Houston and San Fran down below us, but then I'd bump the Bengals and the Dolphins ahead of us off the top of my head. And then I think you're cooking. Then I think you've got pretty much it spot on. I think 3rd sounds about right because it should be a really, really dominant trifecta. And you've got, I know this is not a nationally known name. I know people are not talking about Jake Bobo as being some really amazing player or something, but I don't think there are very many number 4 receivers out there that provide value the way Bobo does. I just don't. And we all expect JSN to take a big step forward this year, even though Lockett is probably going to take a step back because he's old, and he's going to cede some of his targets to JSN. All right. So, seems pretty good to me. All right, so tight end. Seahawks show up closer to the bottom this time. Number 21 overall, Fant, Farrell Brown, AJ Barner, Brady Russell. So, unlike the last 2 years, the Seahawks have a more normalized tight end room. They have one talented pass catcher, Noah Fant. They have one blocking tight end in Farrell Brown, and then a rookie, and then the fourth string tight end doesn't matter anyway. I don't think any of these fourth string tight ends are going to matter very much at all. Like, maybe one or two of them will actually end up mattering, but most of them will not. So I'm not even talking about Brady Russell here, but it's much more normalized, and Noah Fant just hasn't had a lot of production over the last couple years. And we all expect him to make some strides forward in 2024 because it's a new offense, and the team chose to retain him at significant cost, so there must be some kind of plan here. But gone are the days of having 3 playmaking, dangerous pass-catching tight ends like we had the last 2 years, where it was like, yeah, we don't have a superstar, we don't have stud tight ends, but we have 3 guys that can play well and do damage. Now we're kind of down to a more normal tight end room. Now, clearly, these rankings are weighed heavily towards the starter, I think, because if you take a look at who they have at the top, they've got Travis Kelce at the top, and then you've got Mark Andrews, then you've got Kincaid, then you've got George Kittle. It's pretty clearly not looking too deeply at the backup and third string, which is definitely the right way to do things. So if you're just looking at Noah Fant, I think this is probably about right. Now, I will say this. We are hoping that Noah Fant does much better than this year for him to be worth the money we gave him. And I don't doubt that he has talent beyond what he's shown so far as a member of the Seahawks. He can produce far more than he's produced so far. But as of right now, that seems about right. I think Farrell Brown's just going to stay in his lane. I think AJ Barner's just going to stay in his lane, especially as a rookie. So I'm not expecting a ton from the tight end room this year. All right, next up is offensive line. And he does the whole offensive line by group. He doesn't go left tackle, right tackle, left guard, right guard, center. He just does the whole group. And we got to get all the way to the bottom here. He has the Seattle Seahawks offensive line in last place in the entire league. 32nd out of 32nd. Cross, Tomlinson, Harris, Bradford, Lucas. Now, I disagree about Harris. I don't think Harris will be starting. I think Oluwatimi will. And I also think that Haynes will start. Maybe that would change things a tiny bit, but not a lot. Now, last year, the Seahawks offensive line kind of ran into a worst-case scenario. They had a bunch of injuries. Cross got hurt. Lucas got hurt. They had several guys in the interior playing through injuries all year. And they were really bad. It was a really bad offensive line. It was an offensive line that made everything look worse. But I still don't think they were the worst in the league. So, I'll put it to you like this. I would expect there to be at least a couple teams that are worse on the offensive line than the Seahawks. I don't know exactly who it's going to be. Like last year, you had a couple offensive lines just completely collapse, like the Giants. We were clearly better on the offensive line than the Giants. It wasn't even close. We were better on the offensive line than a team like the Patriots. And I don't know who's going to be the team that collapses with their offensive line this year, but some team is going to. And I don't think we'll be the worst. But if this is the starting 5, I think we'll be right down there. I like Cross a lot. If Lucas can bounce back, that's big. But the interior, it just didn't move in the right direction with the velocity that we needed. You've still got big unknowns in the middle. You're betting a lot on people being able to successfully move positions. And I think that if you're being real, if you're being honest, it's going to be near the bottom as of right now. Now, in order to go beyond that, which they could do, they have a chance to do it, we're going to have to see some big improvements from Oluwatimi, from if Christian Haynes plays over what we had last year, from Bradford, from Lomia if he ends up playing. So I'm not saying it can't be beaten, but right now, this makes sense. All right, that's it for the offense. I'll do the defense later. See you guys later.